Thank you. So, I'm Jakob Spalletti. I'm one of the core member of the core developer team of Django CMS. I'm the author of Django CMS installer, and I'm founder and lead developer at Nephila, which is a web agency based in Florence. And everybody agrees that testing code is important, but sometimes, and I guess everybody writes tests for their application, but sometimes it's not the most fun part of the job. You have to write a lot of boilerplate code that really doesn't fit the project and the application code. You have to set up the test, and sometimes it's not easy to understand how to set up them. And you have to write a lot of mocks, which I don't really like. I mean, you have to sometimes, but you have to be very careful when mocking things. And especially for Django applications. Especially for testing Django applications, you have one more burden, which is you have to create a fake project to test your application on. And that's not always easy to do so. And you have to create a lot of data, obviously, to test your application against them. And especially for Django CMS applications, which heavily relies on executing views, rendering plugins, etc., you have to fake requests. And faking requests is a hard job most of the time. And more ones. So I wrote this Django CMS. Sorry.
Really hard to understand.
Hopefully, no. You want to stop?
You can put these on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Put them to it.
Really weird. I wrote this Django CMS helper application, which is really an add-on. But anyway, I'll try to. Hopefully, at some point. It's an add-on that contains helpers to write tests and to set up your test. It's not a replacement for things like unit test, nose, PyTest, or etc. It's just something you can use to write your test faster. Despite the name, it doesn't require Django CMS. You can use if you find it useful, you can use for normal Django applications. There are a few Django applications using this for tests. Django CMS is not a dependency, so you can use it freely. And the idea of this helper is to provide I don't.
You blink inside.
Yeah. I added the blink tag. So it provides a complete Django project you can use, so you don't have to create a fake one. It provides helper to mock things, especially requests, and shortcuts to create data. And the bundle project has a command line tool that you can put into Django. I'm sorry, looks like
you got that.
It tries to self-configure itself, and it provides sample templates. So I try to bundle all the most annoying things you have to do in a single application, so you don't have to. And the basic idea of the mockers is that you have to create, especially when testing Django CMS applications, you have to create request context for the templates and testing things with different logins and different users. And mocking these kind of things can be hard, but with Django CMS helper, I try to make it in a consistent and tested way, so you don't have to figure out how to do it yourself. And then there are methods to shortcuts, basically, to create Django CMS pages, users, and images, which are the building blocks of every Django CMS aware application. The idea is that you create a helper file, you write your test, and that's all. The helper file is very small. It's just one file. Usually, by default, it's called cms_helper.py, and it's in the root of your project. But you can name it however you want. And in this section, you have a fragment of the settings, so you can add your application to the installed apps. You can add whatever settings you need to run a test. And then you have this run method, which invokes the runner. You have two runners, one for CMS applications and then one for normal Django application. The only difference is that the CMS one knows about Django CMS and its dependencies and pre-configure a lot of things for you. So the helper, Django CMS helper, takes these settings in the helper file, merged with the default ones he already has, and set up the Django instance and run the Django commands you want to execute. It tries to be smart, as it knows South and Django migrations, and for Django CMS standard applications knows the setup layout of the migrations for each application and for different Django CMS applications, so you don't have to care about the migration module layout in Django CMS 3 or 3.1, etc. It automatically converts the templates underscore settings of 1.7, 1.6 to 1.8 template reconfiguration if you are executing on Django 1.8 version. At some point, this will be reversed. You will write the Django 1.8 template settings and will be converted to the older ones. And knows a few things about Django CMS, so it pre-configures the project according to this. If you invoke this on a normal application without any parameters, it just runs the test. But is really a Django admin substitute, as you can run any command. So you can, I don't know, CMS helper compile messages, or CMS helper create super user, etc. And it has two make shortcuts. One is server, which is a clone of run server, but it creates an admin user. It's set up the whole thing, so you can test your application without instantiating a complete project. You have your application, you run CMS helper server, and you can play with it. And then there is the make migrations command with recognize the Django version and create the South migration or the Django migration according to the environment there, so you don't have to run two commands. And then there is any Django commands available. And this is the helper file and all the runner, etc. It's for starting and creating an environment for your application, which is half of the job of Django CMS helper. The other half is providing helpers in your test cases. There is a base class, which is called base test class, which supports all of these helpers. The first one and more important to note is the mock, mocking things properly, especially the request object. By default, Django provides a very raw and minimal request object. Django CMS helper has more rich requests, so you have get and post, and then this special request object made for Django CMS, basically for using, for interacting with the Django CMS front-end editor. And using them is very straightforward. You go to get request. You have a few arguments. One is the page. If you have the CMS page, you can pass it to the method. You pass the language. Eventually, a user, if you want to have a user in your request, and then a path, which can be almost anything. It's not really useful. I mean, it's not used to generate things. And the one by default, okay, it just mocks a lot of things. But if you want to have a real request object like you receive in a normal view, you can invoke all the middlewares on the request, which then populates exactly as it would in the real execution of the application. And then the result is a perfect, normal request object with a session, with a current page, which is an attribute Django CMS add. You have the user, you have the underscore messages, and whatever thing middleware add to the request object, it will be in this fake request. And I found it very hard to create proper requests, and also in the Django CMS history of bugs, there are many that has not been caught by the test suite because the request was not set up properly. And this is always validated and upgraded depending on the history of bugs, etc. So I try to make this as more comprehensive as possible to have a real object you can rely on to make your tests. And then the other complex thing you may have to do in your tests are rendering properly the CMS plugins, because the CMS plugins relies on a proper context to be rendered. And so I wrote a couple of shortcuts to render plugin. One is a lower level method get plugin context, which creates context for rendering plugin, and one is just rendering the plugin. And so with this command, you get a whole plugin context, which is kind of special, as especially in Django 1.8, you can really create a request context and put it and render plugin out of it, because Django 1.8 changed a few things. It used to work until 1.7, but this won't work in 1.8. So this method takes care of creating a proper context for rendering the plugin, and then you can use the context in the render plugin method of the plugin instance, or you can render the old placeholder using the render underscore placeholder function. And on a higher level, you can just say, okay, render this plugin on this page in this language, and eventually setting up the markup for the front-end editor.
Did you initialize a placeholder, or can you sort of not bother with a placeholder?
Sorry?
Did you have to create a placeholder object?
Yes, you have to create a placeholder object, either on a page or in an object, but it has to be a placeholder, a real placeholder, because you have to create the plugin instance. Right. So it needs a placeholder to work.
And is this in the database at all, or is this all just in memory objects?
No, it has to exist, because the render plugin, especially the render placeholder, will get plugins out of the database.
Right.
So you have to create things. this request and plugin context need to be mocked, but for pages you cannot mock them. You have to create for real pages for real. The good thing is that Django CMS provides a nice way to create pages through the API, and okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. But one thing you may want to do when testing your application is adding the handbook of your application to a page. And sometimes this is not does not interact well with URL subsystem of Django. So you have the reload_URL_conf to refresh the whole URLs, and so you can reuse you can actually use the URL conf without having bad interaction with these things. URL conf reload is still the dark part of Django CMS. I mean, it's very sensitive, and it's not that easy to interact well with it, because Django does not suppose you are fiddling with it, so it doesn't provide any ways to populate it dynamically. And then there is some really shortcuts, some simple shortcuts, like login user context. You pass the user, the client is logged in, and the request is prepared, and it's very straightforward to use, very handy, nothing special. And then there is the creating data, because you need data to test your application on, and there are a lot of ways to create data: static pictures, custom code, or data generator. But sometimes they are not the best solution, especially for Django CMS applications. And so, by using the APIs and low-level APIs of Django CMS and Django, there are methods to create data automatically, not really automatically, but to create data. So you have to create pages, you define _pages data, and you describe in a list of dictionaries the pages you want to create. You can find the title in different languages. You can define the template, and you can add also the parent-child relationship by using the slide of pages. You can use happens, and then you get all the pages through this method. So you define the page structuring as an attribute in the test case, and you get, whenever you need it, you get it. And as I told, there are support for complex arguments like parent and happuk. And parent is just the slide of the parent page, and happuk, you define the string of your happuk, and the URL conf is reloaded when the page is published, and then the URL conf is reloaded. Then you can create users with this shortcut. It knows about custom user models, so you can pass here the email if your user has an email as username, has some basic or default CMS permission if you want to have permission to that user, or you can pass directly the list of permission you want to give to the user, so you can test in different environments your client. By default, you have an admin, a staff, and a normal user available, which is created in the setup class. And then, sometimes it's useful to have image objects available in your test. Django does not provide anything to create them. great, but you have Django CMS helper defines these three methods. These create normal peel image object. This create a Django file object which encapsulates an image, and this create a filer object which encapsulates the Django file which encapsulates the peel object. So, and this is the result. Create image, you have the peel object. Create Django image object, you have the file, and save for the file. There are some examples which uses Django CMS helper. Filer is a known CMS application which uses it. I'm really broken. And then there is Django CMS blog and Django CMS page meta, which are two applications I wrote, and then also all the Aldrin applications are using Django CMS helper to write tests. And so probably the most advanced usage are the Aldrin application, which tests a lot of cases. Then there is documentation, which I try to explain things more in details and more in the internals. And yeah, that's all. Any question?
Can you put the URL back?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. But I think it's most. I think you've given it. I mean, it started with Django CMS, but it clearly has the wrong name. This is a Django testing helper, and it so happens that it either supports Django CMS, or you can add that as a kind of plugin or pack for it. But this is something that, if you put it in front of other Django developers who are not using Django CMS, I think they would jump at the chance to have something that's going to do, especially this stuff with the requests, for example, that such a problem sometimes when you're testing a Django application or setting up a project, especially with all the different variations you have in project settings for different applications. So I think that its use is much wider than its name even suggests.
Yeah, I mean, the naming is, at this point, is wrong. When I started, it was really targeted at Django CMS, but at some point I saw that it's a general purpose tool, and so I removed the Django CMS dependency just to make it easier to reuse in other normal Django applications. Probably I should create an alias on PyPI, say Django helper, Django test helper, etc.
Sorry, what do you think it would take to abstract all that from it so that it actually would be a candidate for becoming a core Django application as part of the basic Django toolset?
I mean, it's very easy. The code that's set up, all the test case helper are in a single file, in a single class, and which doesn't depend on anything. It's just a class which depends on unit testing. And the project setup is in a couple of files, not that nice to see, but it's. I mean, I try to make the footprint as small as possible. So, yeah, I mean, if this might be useful for Django community at large, I'd be very happy, and I'm really. That's all about this. And the one thing, the complex thing on this project has been writing tests for this. And for the most used application I wrote, which is Django CMS helper and Django CMS installer, all has the same problem. They are very hard to test because they do. They're not Django applications you can test, and they interact with in weird ways and they do weird things. So tests in Django CMS helper are split in two. The time is up. And one is the test of the project setup, which is in a single file in the Django CMS helper.tests. And then I created a fake application which extends the base test class and executes and test this fake application to be able to test the base test class. So you will have the test split in two. And if you want to see more, I've not put much code in this slide, but if you want to see some examples of how to use Django CMS helper to write tests, I don't know if we have any more time, but other than that, we will have to the booth. And there is, especially in a Django CMS blog and Django CMS page data, there are examples on how to use it to render things and how to test the views. One reason I invested so much time in mocking the request is that I hate writing tests that does self.client.get something. I prefer to test views at very low level to be more for speed reason and to be able to test exactly what I want.
Is there something in Django CMS helper which makes that easy? I need to write examples to be self-defined.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes you have to use it. I mean, in this case, yeah.
I mean, we have sort of library, for example, we have these measures from the RNS and something like that. I think might conflict in a similar name. But like a fast dispatch method, which gives a view name and call the dispatch method review directly with setting up a request.
Exactly. And in Django CMS blog, for example, I instantiate the view class, then I add all the things I need as attribute to the class so I can test it directly.
Is there any that Django CMS helper that in a useful way that you can?
No, at the moment there is nothing in Django CMS helper that does this for you, but it's why I put so much effort in creating a proper request, because if you do self.client.get, Django will create a proper request for you. Other than that, you're alone. And so, but there is nothing in Django CMS helper at the moment that help you to set up the view for this kind of low-level testing.
Yeah, so would you be interested in getting that stuff? Because we could like do some poly tests of our code to be more likely to get used and get out there rather than being out of the publisher. So
very open to trying contribution. Or just integrate the tools to each other. That's it. Thank you so much.
Are you going to post these slides online as well?
Yes.
Can you tweet them?
Yes, but I'll write here this training. That's the URL. But I will do so you don't have to write down. Thank you. It's hilarious with people. Gremlins. Every time it's a new surprise. I told you I told you I hate this laptop. You know why.
Thank you. Right, I've got to go for another talk, but we'll talk and we'll, I'll certainly listen. Thank you,
I'd like to find you after the next talk.
Okay. I'm at the next Django CMS.
Cool, thank you.